Snow was falling quietly across the empty fields. The wind whistled through the old fences, carrying the sound of silence. The small farmhouse stood alone under the pale morning sky, smoke rising weakly from its chimney. Inside, Eli Turner, a middle-aged farmer with rough hands and tired eyes, sipped his black coffee beside the window. It was another cold day, another lonely morning in the middle of nowhere. He put on his heavy coat, pulled his gloves tight, and stepped outside. The snow crunched under his boots. His breath turned white in the freezing air. For years, Eli had lived alone on this farm, far away from towns or people, but he liked the quiet. It kept the ghosts of his past far away, but this morning something was different. As he walked toward his field, his eyes caught something strange near the fence. The snow wasn't smooth. There were footprints, small, light, and spaced oddly. Not animal prints, not human either. They looked like something with narrow toes and tiny heels. Eli frowned, kneeling down to take a closer look. The prints led straight to his carrot patch, which he had covered with plastic sheets to protect from frost. He slowly followed them. The closer he got, the more he noticed. The tracks were fresh. Whoever made them had been here just minutes ago. He stopped. The cover on his carrot patch was half lifted, and a few carrots lay scattered across the snow. Someone had been stealing from him. Eli's eyes narrowed. He didn't have much left to lose, but he wasn't about to let thieves walk away so easily. He moved quietly around the barn, his boots sinking into the soft snow. Then he saw it, a small shadow behind the water trough. It moved quickly, bending down as if hiding something. Eli's heart began to pound. He thought it might be a wild child or maybe a strange animal. He took his flashlight from his coat and switched it on. The bright beam cut through the snowflakes, and then he froze. There, crouched beside the trough, was a girl, but she wasn't human. Her skin glowed faintly green under the light. Her hair was pale blonde, almost white, and shimmered like ice. She looked thin, fragile, and frightened. In her small hands, she held a bunch of carrots close to her chest. The girl turned, startled by the light. Her eyes, bright golden green, locked with his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Eli finally spoke, his voice rough. "What in the world are you?" The girl didn't answer. She looked ready to run. He saw her breathing fast, her bare shoulders trembling from the cold. She looked like a lost child, but her ears were pointed and faint glowing veins ran beneath her skin. Eli took one slow step forward. "Hey," he said, trying to sound calm. "I ain't gonna hurt you, but you can't be stealing from me." The girl's lips moved, her voice soft and strange, almost musical. "Hun, Gry, please." Eli's anger melted into confusion. She wasn't dangerous. She looked half-starved, freezing, and terrified. The snow around her knees was red with frostbite. Her breath came in small clouds. He lowered his flashlight. "You'll freeze out here," he muttered, more to himself than her. "Where did you come from?" She shook her head weakly. "Ship, gone," she whispered. "Crash, sky, gone." Eli blinked. He wasn't sure he understood. A ship, a crash? He looked up instinctively, but the sky was empty except for falling snow. Before he could ask more, the girl's body swayed. The carrots fell from her hands. She stumbled and collapsed face first into the snow. "Hey," Eli shouted, rushing forward. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was cold, too cold. She was barely breathing. He hesitated, glancing back at his farmhouse. He knew bringing her inside could be trouble. She wasn't human. She might be dangerous. Or she might be hunted. But if he left her here, she'd die within minutes. He looked down at her peaceful, unconscious face. She looked so young, so helpless. Maybe 14. Maybe less, Eli sighed. "Damn it," he whispered. "You picked the wrong farm, kid." He lifted her gently in his arms. She was light as snow itself. As he carried her toward the farmhouse, the wind howled louder as if warning him. When he reached the door, he paused again, heart racing. "You better not get me killed," he muttered, pushing the door open. The warmth from the fire touched her pale face. Eli laid her on the old couch and wrapped her in a blanket. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering her footprints. The world would soon forget she was ever there, except him. He sat beside the fire, staring at her strange face. "Who are you, girl?" he whispered. The wind outside answered softly, carrying only silence. But deep down, Eli knew. His quiet life was over. The storm outside grew stronger through the night. The wind howled across the snowy fields, rattling the windows of Eli Turner's farmhouse. Inside, the old wood stove crackled softly, filling the room with a faint orange glow. Eli sat beside the couch, his elbows resting on his knees. His eyes never left the strange girl sleeping under the blanket. Her breathing was slow, calm, almost peaceful now, but she wasn't human. He could see that clearly. Her skin had a faint greenish glow in the dim light, as if tiny stars shimmered under her skin. Her hair, soft and pale like moonlight, lay across her shoulder, and when she shifted slightly in her sleep, he noticed faint markings across her neck, delicate glowing lines like living veins of light. Eli rubbed his face and sighed. What did I just drag into my house? He got up, poured himself another cup of coffee, and stared out the window. Snowflakes blew sideways, covering everything in white. Out there he saw only darkness and endless cold, but inside something warm stirred in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. When he turned back, the girl was awake. Her bright golden-green eyes watched him carefully, filled with both fear and curiosity. She sat up quickly, clutching the blanket to her chest, trembling. Easy, Eli said softly, raising a hand. You're safe here. The girl looked around the room, confused and wary. Her voice came out broken, struggling with the human tongue. Why, help me? Eli hesitated. He didn't have a clear answer. You were freezing to death out there, he finally said. Couldn't just leave you. She stared at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face as if trying to read his thoughts. Then slowly she whispered, humans, not kind. Eli let out a tired laugh. Yeah, I've heard that one before. The girl tilted her head, not understanding his humor. She looked around again, her gaze falling on the fireplace. The warmth seemed to ease her fear a little. What's your name? Eli asked. She hesitated before speaking, her accent soft and musical. Lyra, she said quietly. Lyra, he repeated. That's different. She blinked, then asked, You, name? Eli. She nodded slowly, testing the word on her tongue. Eli? He noticed her stomach growl faintly. Without saying a word, he stood up and fetched a bowl of soup from the stove. When he handed it to her, she flinched at first, then slowly took it with both hands. The steam rose around her small face. She sipped it carefully, her eyes closing as the warmth touched her throat. Good, she whispered. Warm, Eli nodded. You're welcome. For a moment, there was quiet between them. The crackling fire, the distant wind, and the small sound of her spoon clinking against the bowl. But deep inside, Eli knew this peace wouldn't last. After she finished eating, Lyra set the bowl down and looked at him again, her voice a bit stronger now. You farmer? Yeah, Eli said, sitting back in his chair. Been one all my life. Not much left of it now. Just me, the land, and the snow. Lyra's eyes softened. Alone? He gave a small nod. Been that way for a long time. She looked down, her fingers curling into the blanket. Me too, she said quietly. Eli felt something stir inside him again. Something old, something human. Then Lyra's expression changed. Her eyes darted toward the window. Outside, in the distance, a faint light flickered against the snow. Not lightning, something mechanical. Eli frowned and stood up. Stay here, he whispered. He moved to the window, pulled the curtain slightly aside, and froze. Far down the valley, through the swirling snow, a hovering patrol drone moved slowly across the sky. Its red scanning light swept over the fields, searching, scanning, hunting. Eli's heart pounded. They're looking for you, aren't they? Lyra's eyes widened. Yes, she said quickly. They find me. I die. Eli looked at her, this tiny, trembling creature sitting in his old farmhouse, and felt a choice rising in his chest. He could throw her out, pretend he never saw her, let the patrol take her away. That was the safe thing to do, the smart thing, but he knew he couldn't, not after what he'd seen in her eyes. He turned back to her, his jaw set. You're staying here tonight, he said firmly. They won't find you. Not while I'm around. Lyra stared at him, confusion turning slowly into disbelief. You protect me? Eli nodded once. Yeah, seems I've done worse things before. Outside, the red light passed across the hills, scanning closer and closer. Eli grabbed his old rifle just in case. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. The moment he found that girl in the snow, his quiet life had ended, and something much bigger had just begun. The morning came quietly, but the fear from the night before still hung heavy in the farmhouse. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world of white silence. Every tree, every fence post was covered in snow. The rising sun painted the frozen fields in pale gold. Inside, Eli Turner moved carefully, keeping his steps light. He didn't want to wake the girl sleeping by the fire. Lyra was still wrapped in the thick wool blanket he had given her. Her breathing was steady now, soft and calm, but Eli couldn't stop thinking about what she had said last night. They find me. I die. He stood by the window watching the horizon. The patrol drone was gone, but he knew more would come. The government never ignored alien signals. Not since the first contact wars. If they knew she was here, they would search every inch of land until they found her, and anyone helping her would be branded a traitor. He turned to look at her again. The firelight reflected softly on her greenish skin. She looked peaceful, almost angelic, not like a threat at all. "What are you running from, kid?" he whispered. Lyra stirred, her golden eyes blinking open. For a second she looked confused, as if she had forgotten where she was. Then she saw him and sat up quickly. "You didn't tell?" she asked. Eli shook his head. "No one came. You're safe, for now." Her shoulders relaxed a little. "Thank you," she said, her voice small but sincere. Eli poured her another bowl of soup, and she ate quietly, holding the spoon carefully as if afraid to break it. He couldn't help but notice how gentle she was, every move slow and graceful. After a few minutes, Eli spoke again. "You said your ship crashed. Where?" Lyra's eyes darkened. "Far, in the woods, north of here. I walked many days, cold, hungry." She looked down, clutching her hands together. "My people, dead. Only me." Eli's chest tightened. He remembered the night she mentioned, the lights in the sky 2 weeks ago. He thought it was just debris or a meteor shower. But maybe it was her ship burning through the atmosphere. "Can the ship still work?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Broken, no power, no signal." He leaned back, thinking hard. If her ship was still out there, it might have tech or evidence the authorities were tracking. He couldn't let them find it, or her. For now, she had to stay hidden. "All right," Eli said, his voice firm. "You can stay here. But you don't go outside, you understand? If anyone sees you, we're both in trouble." Lyra nodded quickly. "I stay, I promise." He gave her a small smile. "Good. Let's keep you alive then." She smiled faintly, a small, soft smile that made her face seem almost human. Hours passed quietly. Lyra helped him around the farmhouse, clumsy at first, but eager to learn. She tried sweeping the floor, fed the chickens in the back room, and even managed to light the fire when it started dying down. Eli found himself watching her more than he wanted to admit. There was something innocent about her, something pure that reminded him of a time long gone, but peace never lasts long. That afternoon, while Eli was chopping wood behind the barn, he heard it, a low hum in the distance. It wasn't the sound of the wind or any tractor. It was mechanical, rhythmic, and too clean. He froze, axe in hand, and listened again. The hum grew louder. Closer. "Damn it," he muttered, dropping the axe and rushing inside. Lyra looked up from the table, startled. "What happened?" "Get down," Eli hissed, pulling the curtains shut. Through the small crack he saw them, 2 black-armored patrol troopers walking through the snow, their visors glowing red, scanning devices in hand. Behind them hovered a small drone. Eli's heart pounded. He turned to Lyra. "Hide in the cellar now." She didn't argue. She ran to the corner hatch, lifting it quickly, and disappeared down the wooden steps. He shut the door above her and threw a rug over it just as the knock came. Bang! 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 "Open up! Patrol inspection!" a rough voice shouted. Eli wiped his hands, forcing his heartbeat to slow. He opened the door halfway. "Morning, officers," he said calmly. "What's this about?" "Routine scan," one trooper said, stepping forward. "We detected off-world energy north of here. You seen anything unusual? Lights, debris, strangers?" Eli's face remained blank. "Just snow and silence, same as always." The trooper's red visor flickered as he scanned Eli's face. "Mind if we take a look around?" Eli stepped aside. "Go ahead. You won't find much." The soldiers entered, scanning every corner. Eli's palms were sweating. The cellar hatch lay only a few feet away. One of the troopers stopped near it. Eli's hand tightened around the coffee mug he held. Then the soldier turned away. "Clear," he said. They left minutes later. boots crunching through the snow. When the sound of their engines faded, Eli exhaled deeply. He lifted the rug and opened the hatch. Lyra's glowing eyes stared up at him, wide with fear. "They're gone," he said softly. "You're safe again." She climbed up slowly and stood before him. "You lie." "For me?" Eli shrugged. "I guess I did." Lyra's lips trembled into a small, grateful smile. "You good human." Eli looked away, embarrassed. "Don't get used to it, kid. You're still trouble." But deep down, he knew it was too late. He had already made his choice, and the universe wasn't going to forgive him for it. The wind howled again that night, sweeping through the valley like a restless ghost. The moon hung low behind thick clouds, turning the snowy landscape into shifting shades of silver and shadow. Eli Turner couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring out into the dark fields, his old rifle resting against the wall beside him. It had been 2 days since the patrol visited his farm. Since then, Lyra had barely spoken. She stayed hidden most of the time, helping quietly, cleaning, mending old clothes, or reading from Eli's dusty shelf of books she couldn't fully understand. She seemed calmer now, but Eli could see the worry in her golden eyes. Outside, the wind shifted. Somewhere in the distance, a faint humming sound echoed through the night. Eli froze. He knew that sound too well. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't any earth machine he owned. It was something heavier, metallic, pulsing, alive. He grabbed his coat and rifle, moving to the door.
"Stay inside," he told Lyra. Her eyes widened.
"What is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped out into the cold. Snowflakes brushed against his beard as he squinted into the darkness. The sound grew louder, a low vibration that made the ground tremble slightly. Then above the hills, faint red lights began to appear. Drones. More than one. Eli's stomach tightened. The patrol was back, this time not for inspection. They were searching. He turned back toward the house and whispered under his breath, "Damn it, Lyra." Inside, Lyra had gone to the window, peeking out. She could see the glow too, her small hands trembling as she whispered, "They found us." Eli locked the doors, pulled the curtains, and turned off the lamps. The only light left came from the fireplace. "Go to the cellar," he ordered. "No," she said firmly, shaking her head. "They can track heat. If I hide there, they find." He frowned, realizing she was right. "Then where?" She looked toward the barn. Cold metal walls. "Hide my heat," Eli hesitated. The barn was old and half collapsed on one side, but maybe it could work. He nodded. "Go now." They moved quickly, keeping low as they crossed the snow. The night was filled with the humming of the drones overhead. Their red beams swept over the fields like searching eyes. Eli led her into the barn, shutting the heavy wooden door behind them. The smell of hay and old oil filled the air. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Lyra crawled behind a pile of empty barrels. Her small figure almost disappeared in the shadows. Eli stood near the door, watching the flickering red lights pass through the cracks in the barn wall. A sudden flash of light cut across the yard. The sound of engines followed. 3 armored troopers marched toward the farmhouse. Their black suits glowed faintly with blue circuits as they scanned the property. One of them raised a scanner, and a faint holographic map flickered above his wrist. "She was here," one said, voice metallic through the helmet. "The readings match alien energy residue." Eli's grip tightened on his rifle. His heart pounded like thunder. He had no plan, just instinct. The soldiers split up. One went behind the house, one circled toward the barn, and the third stayed near the front gate. The red scanning beam grew brighter, sliding slowly across the snow until it reached the barn door. Eli stepped forward, silent as he could. His boots sank softly into the straw. The beam paused. The soldier raised his weapon and began walking toward the door. Inside, Lyra's breath quickened. She pressed her hands together and closed her eyes, whispering something in a language Eli couldn't understand. Then, her body glowed faintly, and the light around her shimmered like mist. In seconds, her form seemed to fade, becoming one with the shadows. Eli saw it happen, stunned. She was hiding herself, bending light, vanishing before his eyes. The door creaked open. The soldier's flashlight sliced through the darkness. Eli stood in the corner, his rifle at his side. "Identify yourself," the soldier barked. "Name's Eli Turner," he said calmly. "This is private property." "You already searched me once," the soldier scanned him. "We detected readings again." "Step aside." Eli didn't move. "You think I'm hiding someone in a pile of hay?" "Go ahead, search." The trooper walked inside, light sweeping across the floor. It passed over the barrels right where Lyra hid, but nothing appeared. No figure, no heat, no trace. After a moment, the trooper turned back. Clear, Eli kept his eyes steady. Told you. When the patrol finally left, the humming faded into the distance. Eli waited until the last light disappeared over the hills before exhaling. He turned toward the barrels. You can come out now. Lyra slowly appeared, her body materializing from thin air, her glow returning faintly. Her voice trembled. They almost saw me. Eli set the rifle down and sat heavily on a crate. Yeah, well, they'll be back again. Next time I might not be so lucky. Lyra stepped closer, her expression full of guilt. You protect me. You risk your life. Why? He looked at her for a long moment. The fire from his cigarette glowed in the dark as he muttered, Because you remind me of someone I couldn't save before. She didn't understand all his words, but she understood his tone. Quietly, she said, Then I will not let you die for me. Eli gave a tired half-smile. Let's hope you keep that promise. Outside, the wind began again, carrying the faint echo of engines far away. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The sun rose weakly over the frozen hills, but there was no warmth in its light. Eli Turner stood outside his farmhouse, hands shoved deep in his coat pockets, staring at the faint tracks left behind by the patrol vehicles the night before. Snow had already begun to cover them, but he knew they'd be back. The drones, the soldiers, the scanners. They never stopped once they found a scent. Behind him, Lyra stood quietly near the door, wrapped in a heavy blanket. Her golden green eyes watched him carefully. She didn't say a word, but he could see it in her face, fear mixed with guilt. Eli turned and spoke in a low voice. We can't stay here anymore. They'll come again. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. But they'll come. Lyra's voice trembled as she asked, Where go? He looked toward the forest beyond the frozen fields. You said your ship crashed up north. We'll go there. If we can reach it, maybe we can figure something out. Hide you, fix it, or send a signal. Her eyes widened. It is far, dangerous. Eli gave a faint smile. Everything's dangerous now. Inside, he packed what little he had, canned food, blankets, a map, a small generator battery, and his old rifle. Lyra helped quietly, folding what she could. When she found an old photograph on his shelf, she paused. It showed a younger Eli holding a small girl with dark hair. Lyra looked up at him softly. Your daughter? Eli froze for a moment, then nodded. Was, long time ago. He didn't say more and she didn't ask. But her eyes told him she understood. By evening, the two of them stood by the old wooden fence, the last barrier between the safety of home and the frozen unknown. Eli took one last look at his farmhouse. The smoke from the chimney twisted into the pale sky like a farewell. Guess that's it, he muttered. Time to go. They moved quickly, following a narrow path that wound between snow-covered trees. The world around them was quiet, too quiet. Every step crunched loudly in the snow, echoing through the forest. Eli led the way, scanning the horizon while Lyra walked behind, her blanket wrapped tight, her small feet barely making a sound. As they climbed higher into the hills, the air grew thinner and colder. Lyra stumbled once, falling to her knees. Eli turned, helping her up gently. You all right? She nodded weakly. Just tired. He handed her a piece of bread from his pocket. Eat this. We can rest in the next clearing. They reached a small frozen stream and stopped to drink. The reflection in the ice showed two very different beings. One rough, old, and human. The other alien, glowing faintly like a spirit lost in the snow. Suddenly, Lyra's head snapped up. Her eyes glowed brighter. Something coming, she whispered. Eli tensed. You sure? She pointed to the sky. At first, he heard nothing. But then came the faint, distant roar of engines. The kind that didn't belong to cars or planes. Patrol craft, damn, Eli cursed. They're sweeping the area faster than I thought. He grabbed Lyra's hand. Come on. They ran through the snow, their breath sharp and heavy. Branches whipped past as they weaved through the trees. Above them, a searchlight pierced through the forest canopy, sweeping dangerously close. Lyra stumbled again, but Eli caught her arm, dragging her forward. Finally, they found a small cave at the base of a rocky hill. They ducked inside just as the beam passed over the entrance. The hum of the patrol ship vibrated through the ground. For a moment, they stood completely still, hardly daring to breathe. Lyra whispered, Track energy. The drone will scan. Eli's mind raced. He looked at the small generator battery in his bag, the one he'd brought to power her ship. It emitted a faint charge, just enough to show up on their scanners. He cursed under his breath and pulled it out. "What you doing?" Lyra asked. He smiled faintly. "Buying us time." He ran out of the cave and threw the battery as far as he could into the snow-covered woods. Seconds later, the sound of the drone shifted direction, following the false signal. Eli ran back inside, panting. That should keep them busy for a bit. Lyra stared at him, her eyes full of awe and worry. "You risk too much." He chuckled softly, sitting down beside her. "Yeah, story of my life." For a long while, they sat in silence, listening to the sound of the distant patrol fading away. Snow fell gently outside the cave, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Lyra leaned her head slightly against his shoulder. "Thank you, Eli," she said quietly. "You saved me. Again." He looked down at her, his expression softening. "Don't thank me yet. We're not out of this mess." But inside, something had changed. The fear that once filled his chest was slowly being replaced by something stronger. Purpose. The girl beside him wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was someone worth protecting. Someone who reminded him that there was still good left in a cold universe. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering their tracks as if the earth itself was helping them hide. Tomorrow, they would head deeper into the mountains. Tomorrow they would try to find her ship, but tonight, inside that quiet cave beneath a sky full of stars, two lost souls shared the same fragile hope. That maybe, just maybe, they could survive this together. Snowflakes drifted through the mountain air like tiny sparks of glass, falling gently onto the white world below. The morning was silent, but the silence was heavy, too heavy. It was the kind of quiet that made Eli's skin crawl. Every sound, every breath felt louder than it should. He and Lyra had been walking for hours. Their footprints stretched behind them in a long, lonely trail across the frozen forest. The air was thin now, and their breaths turned into clouds of steam that hung briefly before fading. Eli stopped and adjusted his backpack. "You said it was close," he said between breaths. Lyra nodded weakly. Her small hand pointed toward the northern ridge. "Past that hill. My ship there." He followed her gesture and saw it. The faint metallic glimmer buried under layers of snow and ice. A shape that didn't belong to this world. His heart pounded faster. They climbed the final slope. When they reached the top, Eli froze. Below them, half buried in a frozen crater, lay a broken spacecraft. Its silver hull torn open, smoke long gone but scars still fresh. Twisted metal, shattered panels, and the faint glow of alien markings marked the place of her fall. "That it?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with both sadness and hope. "Home. Once." Eli's boots sank deep into the snow as they descended toward the wreck. The closer they got, the more he could see how badly damaged it was. Whatever crash-landed here had come down hard. Inside the shattered opening, faint lights still blinked, slow and weak, like a heartbeat refusing to die. Lyra ran forward, her small feet crunching through the frost, and placed her glowing hands on the cracked metal. "Still alive," she whispered. "I can wake her." Eli kept watch while she worked. He crouched near the ship's entrance, rifle ready, eyes scanning the ridges around them. The cold stung his skin, but he didn't care. For the first time in days, Lyra smiled faintly as the ship hummed softly under her touch. "Power core, sleeping. I can wake it with energy." Eli handed her the small generator battery, the same one he had risked everything to keep. "This enough?" She nodded. "It will help." She connected the wires with surprising skill. The lights on the ship began to glow brighter. A low vibration filled the air, and for a moment Eli felt something strange. Warmth. It pulsed through the air like a heartbeat. Then he heard it. Distant engines. His blood turned cold. He turned sharply toward the valley. Through the falling snow, dark shapes appeared, 3 armored transports moving fast. Searchlights cut through the mist, and the sound of turbines echoed through the mountains. "Lyra," he shouted. "They found us." Lyra's hands shook as she tried to finish the connection. "Just one more minute." Eli positioned himself near the wreck, raising his rifle. His breath came in short bursts. He could see the soldiers now, dark silhouettes spreading out across the snow, their red visors glowing like eyes of demons. The first shot came from the ridge. A flash of blue light streaked past, hitting the side of the ship with a loud crack. Eli fired back, his bullet sparking off one soldier's armor. "Hurry!" he yelled. Lyra connected the final wire. The ship roared to life, lights flaring, engines whining weakly beneath layers of frost. But the sound was too loud. It drew every eye to their position. The soldiers opened fire. Energy bolts exploded across the snow, burning holes into the ground. Eli ducked behind a metal plate, returning fire. He wasn't aiming to kill, just to buy time. Lyra's voice broke through the chaos. "Eli, the power! It's working!" He looked back. The ship's interior lights glowed bright now, the control systems flickering online. "Then go," he shouted. "Get in and fly." She shook her head desperately. "I can't leave without you." "Go, damn it," he barked, standing up and firing another shot. "You'll die if you stay." A blast hit the ground beside him, knocking him backward. Pain shot through his leg as he fell. His rifle slid across the snow. He groaned, trying to push himself up. Lyra screamed his name. "Eli!" Without thinking, she ran out from the ship and knelt beside him, her hands glowing brightly. She pressed them against his leg and warmth surged through his body. The pain faded instantly, but so did her strength. Her glow dimmed. "You idiot," he muttered. "You didn't have to." Before he could finish, another explosion tore through the snow, sending debris flying. The soldiers were closing in. Eli pulled her close, shielding her from the blast. "Listen to me," he said roughly. "You've got one chance. Get in that ship and fly away. Don't look back." Tears filled her glowing eyes. "And you?" "I'll be fine," he lied. "Go save yourself." Lyra hesitated for one painful second, then nodded slowly.
"I will come back."
"I promise." She ran toward the ship. Eli turned and fired his last bullet at the patrol commander. The shot hit true, shattering the man's visor. Then the ship's engines ignited, brilliant blue flames cutting through the snowstorm. The shockwave knocked Eli flat as the ship rose slowly into the sky, its thrusters melting the ice below. The soldiers scattered, blinded by the light. As the ship vanished into the clouds, the snow around Eli glowed faintly from the fire's reflection. He lay there, chest heaving, his body covered in frost and ash. A small smile formed on his lips. "She made it," he whispered. Then everything went quiet again, except for the faint hum of an engine fading into the stars. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world of calm silence. Snow covered everything. Trees, fences, the old farmhouse roof, all blanketed in soft white. Days had turned into weeks since that night in the mountains, the night Eli Turner nearly lost his life protecting the alien girl who'd fallen from the stars. He sat on the porch now, his leg wrapped in thick bandages, a steaming cup of coffee in his hands. The burn marks on the ground where the patrol ships had landed were still faintly visible, reminders of the chaos that had once filled this quiet place. The doctors from the nearby town had asked him what happened, how he got those injuries. He told them it was a gas explosion in the woods. No one questioned it. No one came to search. The soldiers, the drones, the noise, it had all vanished as if none of it had ever happened. But Eli knew better. He'd seen her ship rise through the fire and snow. He'd seen her eyes one last time before she disappeared into the clouds. Now, every night, he found himself looking at the stars. He had patched up the holes in his roof, fixed the barn doors, and tried to return to his quiet life. But nothing was the same. Every creak in the wood, every hum of wind outside reminded him of her voice.
"I will come back."
"I promise," he smiled faintly, shaking his head. "You're probably halfway across the galaxy by now, kid." Still, he couldn't help but hope. That evening, the sky was unusually clear. The stars sparkled brighter than ever, and a thin trail of aurora shimmered faintly in green and gold across the horizon. Eli leaned on the fence, watching. The cold air bit at his face, but he didn't care. There was peace here. Lonely, yes, but peaceful. Then something caught his eye. A small streak of light appeared in the sky, not like a shooting star, not like a meteor. This one moved slowly, deliberately. It glowed with soft blue fire, descending through the clouds until it vanished somewhere beyond the far hill. Eli blinked. His heart skipped a beat. No way. He grabbed his coat and his flashlight and began walking, then limping faster through the snow. The light had landed somewhere near the old carrot field, the same place he'd first found her. When he reached it, the air smelled faintly metallic. A shallow crater smoked gently, and at its center lay something small, a metallic sphere no bigger than his fist, glowing with the same pale green hue as Lyra's eyes. Eli knelt down carefully, brushing snow off it. The moment his fingers touched the surface, the sphere opened like a flower, petals of silver unfolding outward. Inside was a small crystal glowing warmly. And then he heard her voice. Eli. It was faint but real. Her voice, soft and full of warmth, echoed inside his mind. You saved me. You gave me life when I had none. You showed me what kindness means. Eli's breath trembled. Lyra, I made it home. My people are safe. They know your name. They know what a human did for one of us. One day when the stars are safe again, I will return. The light pulsed gently with each word, glowing brighter until it filled the snow around him with soft color. Until then, Eli Turner, look to the sky and remember you are never alone. The light faded slowly. The sphere closed, its glow dimming until it was just a small cold piece of metal once more. Eli sat there for a long while, the snow falling gently around him. His heart ached, but not from pain, from something deeper, something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. He stood slowly, holding the small sphere against his chest. Above him the sky shimmered once more, and for a brief moment he thought he saw it, a faint silver ship gliding among the stars before vanishing into the night. Eli smiled. You kept your promise, kid, he whispered. He turned back toward the farmhouse, his breath misting in the cold air. Behind him, the stars burned brighter than ever, painting the snow in silver light. And for the first time in many years, the lonely human farmer didn't feel alone anymore. The galaxy was vast, the stars endless, but somewhere out there, a promise connected two souls, one human, one alien, forever bound by kindness, courage, and the fire that burned even in the coldest snow.